When my parents bought what would become the family home in 1972, the average price of a house in the UK was just under £7,000, about 4 times the average annual salary in the UK. In 1998, when my wife and I bought what became our family home, average prices were £69,000, again, about 4 times the average UK salary. Today, the average price of a home is in the region of £300,000, approaching 8 times salary. And my parents and my wife and I all bought our home around the same time, late 20s, and we financed it ourselves, our own savings, our own salaries for the mortgage. But today's young buyers, most of them won't be able to do it without the bank of mum and dad. And that is dangerous because it sets up essentially a new class structure in the UK between homeowners and non-homeowners. Everyone knows what the fix is. We need to build more homes in order to balance the demand and supply equation. But what people don't talk about is that if we're not very, very careful, the cure is almost as bad as the disease. So what am I talking about? Well, let's imagine that you could click your fingers and you would have enough homes right now to meet the demand for them. Great, everyone who wants a home can get one, but the downside of that is that everyone's equity would fall. You would see that the value of homes would suddenly collapse. You'd have anyone who'd bought a home in the last 15 years would suddenly be in negative equity because the rise in house prices has got nothing to do with the innate value of the assets. It's because of the continuing and long-term misbalance between supply and demand. So if we were to suddenly create a whole bunch of housing, then it would have a massive impact upon the economy and on our social structures. Now, thankfully, we can't build houses that quickly. In fact, the government can't even build them at the rate it promised it would. The 300,000 a year, 1.5 million over the Parliament is extremely unlikely to happen. Let's assume it could. Well, that's still only about half of the forecast demand needed in this country. And that means that we have time to sort things out. We have time to get people used to the idea that the house is not an asset for retirement, which so many of us treat it as. It should be a case of if you have supply meeting demand, then the appreciation of the value of your home, if you buy one, will increase no more than, say, inflation. And that the decision to buy a house as opposed to rent has nothing to do with saving for retirement, increasing the value of an asset. It simply has to do with lifestyle choices. Do you want flexibility so that you can move easily? Well, that's easier if you rent than if you own. Do you want to have the surety of ownership so you can perhaps make changes, build an extension, have more children in the same property because you love the area and the schools? That's easier if you own. But if you don't care about those things, or if you want the hassle and the bother of any major repairs to sit with somebody else, then you just rent, as it happens in lots of other places on the continent. Only reason we have such high ownership in this country is because if you can get your foot on the housing ladder, then you can see, in most cases, asset appreciation and funds for your retirement, or indeed to help your children. But that simply locks in a structural challenge for everybody and causes us, as I said, to lead to this sort of two-class race. Those who parents are on the property ladder and those who are not. And the property ladder itself, it ends up missing the first few rungs. And you have people who do the right things, they get education, they get a good job, but can't buy a home near their families, where they want to live, near their places of work, because they just can't have the financial wherewithal to get up that ladder because the first few rungs are missing. Matters are of course made worse by successive governments' policies and rules that mean that it is harder and more expensive to move home, so we have lower liquidity, social mobility has gone down, and you have empty nesters sitting in homes that are way too large for them, but nevertheless moving would be difficult, expensive, and maybe they can't find anything of the right size and suitability near to where they currently are and their families. The longer this continues, the worse things like our demographics get, which then has a long-term impact on our economy, our ability to afford the services we want, to be able to pay pensions, to invest in our defence, etc. And it becomes a vicious cycle. All these things are going to be politically difficult, and every party has its own constituencies for which makes certain elements of that more difficult than others. The Tories in particular are beholden to the NIMBYs and those who are older and therefore more likely to have bought a house when it was more affordable and therefore got lots of equity tied up in it. You've got the left are more beholden to the other NIMBYs, which are the ones more interested in things like environmental considerations and who will prevent any construction taking place if it so much as damages a daffodil. And then you've got those who will much more interested in punishing those who are wealthy and trying to put very high taxes on them, which will just make the whole marketplace gum up because nobody wants to move or sell because then they'll get hit with a big tax bill. So all these things, no matter who you are, they come with pain. But if we don't fix it, the cost of not fixing it is much, much worse. And that's the topic for the next video. Ta-ra.